Your boy Constaviz34. Today we want to talk about Live Nation President Joe Perchtold saying that he hopes by the summer of 2021 to have the Live Nation outdoor venues opened up and having fans coming into the gates to enjoy some live music. While this may be feasible for smaller acts or mid-tier acts being people who can sell 3,000 to 5,000 seats in a theater or venue in your local city, that is something that could happen, right? You could cut that down, right? Cutting 3,000 down to 1,000 or 1,500. That's feasible, right? Because it's a smaller demand. And I saw this happen at South Farms in Morris, Connecticut. Government Mule, which typically, they'll get 3,000 to 5,000 fans in a certain major market like a Boston or New York. They had their keyboardist and their lead guitarist and singer, just them two, right? Pull up and do some shows of 250 squares, 2 people per square, about 500 people. So you have part of a band, right? And then you have 500 instead of 3,000. That's not that bad. And this same venue had Citizen Cope. It had Manchester Orchestra. Get it down to 500 people max. But I think that when you try to get a Jason Aldean or a Beyonce or a Ariana Grande or a Elton John farewell tour or someone that is on those levels of those artists, those are the artists people want to see, the big name acts. I don't think it's feasible for them to tour like some of the smaller or mid-tier acts had toured in drive-ins this past year. And that is my concern. And with larger acts, what you're seeing is the smaller acts that really can do things on a smaller level, or they just need the money, they are still touring, right? They're finding whatever gig they can find. But the larger acts, they have so many more resources. They have, 50 plus people that may tour with them. They don't want to risk it. You look at Pearl Jam and the Dave Matthews Band, and you look at just musicians in general that are concerned about COVID, that have had family members die of COVID, and they don't want to go out on the road. That is what people need to pay attention to, because Live Nation can make these goals and projections. They can even have their venues up to code for summer of 2021. But if Pearl Jam and if Jason Aldean and if Ariana Grande aren't touring, who's coming in for concerts that's going to make you money? And also, are you going to be able to have a full season if half or 75% of these big name artists aren't touring by the summer of 2021? That's why I think the fall of next year of 2021 or the beginning of 2022 is when we'll see some of these acts come back in more regular fashion, because they have big crews. And even with the vaccine, if someone gets this disease, you've seen with sports, they can't just shut down for 14 days, right? And just reschedule. They can in theory, but the point is with music, you need the fans. So if you're moving these tickets and moving these dates, it gets complicated and complex, and you have people get their hopes up for nothing. At least when they canceled the Bubblesville last day of the tournament here in Connecticut for college basketball for my UConn Huskies, it's like, all right, I'm just not watching. No one had to drive out to Mohegan Sun. It was a bubble environment, and no one was able to go. The public was not able to see the game in person. So no one had to get hyped up. No one bought hotel rooms. But when you have people buying hotel rooms, buying flights to get to these shows, and then you have to cancel it because, look, the vaccine wasn't as good as we thought, that is going to be a recipe for disaster. The other thing people need to look at is the counties and the states and how vastly different they are as far as what they're allowing. You can go to an East Coast Hockey League game like last night on December 11th, and there were fans in the stands, right? Fans were in the stands in Florida for ECHL hockey. But Santa Clara County in Northern California, where the San Francisco 49ers play, and then also Stanford Cardinal football is still playing, they had to move their operations to different states because that county, Santa Clara County, said, nope, we are not even allowing the professionals or the college sports to play in front of empty stands. They're not even allowing football teams to play with nobody else there, and these football teams go back to their sequestering in their separate environments after just being there for maybe 12 hours, right? These football teams are flying in and then flying out that play different teams. They're not even allowing that. That is extreme, because even the other cautious counties are saying, look, everything's canceled except NBA or NFL. Santa Clara County saying, nope, nothing. So when you're trying to get a tour and you have red states and blue states, you have states that are being cautious, you have states that are being lax, how do you develop a tour size, and how do you develop tickets to be distributed when you have each different stop may have a different local policy, even in 2021? Make no mistake about it, things will get lessened up. But if someone like Pearl Jam does a tour and they do Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara County, and then they also do Hard Rock Stadium in the greater Miami area, I believe it's either in Miami, Broward County or Dade County. I think it's in Broward. But that venue is going to have a different policy than the up in Northern California, Santa Clara County. So how do you develop a tour where you all right, I have to do these restrictions when I go to Florida. Then when I go to Texas, I have these restrictions that are loose. Then when I get to Santa Clara County up in the San Francisco area, I have to do all these different things. I have hundreds of people moving with me, and we have to change our whole tune for local guidelines. That's going to be tough. The other thing is the profit margins, which tie into this restriction that different counties have for gatherings. You're going to still see different levels of restrictions being loosened through next year. And can an artist make profit margins in certain markets? Can Live Nation make profit margins with partial crowds? And if they do, is the consumer going to get screwed over by higher prices? Because if they're trying to make profit margins, or even if they're just trying to break even or get something back from all the losses, right? And they only have half the amount of seats open. This is like extreme 50% capacity, right? Because right now people are at certain football games for college and pros are 25%. But let's say there's a vaccine, every other seat is sold. So 50% capacity, the ticket price, let's say they double it or maybe they triple it to really make up what they lost last year. Are you going like that? That's going to suck for the consumer. Now, people will probably buy it because we're desperate right now. They're going to take advantage of it. But can you make the profit margin with 50% of the people there? On top of that, you have 50% of the people there. The band still needs its money. The lighting and all the rigging, all that's the stage management, they all need their money. You have insurance to pay for these people. You have people to feed on the road. Can you make a profit as a larger scale band or act with 50% capacity? And then at the concessions for Live Nation, can they make the liquor sales they need? The reality and honest truth about live music is the cheap seats, the lawn areas for outdoors, a nice summer night, they make a killing off of liquor, of people wanting to get drunk and drink there. If there's half the people there buying alcohol, can they make the profit margins that they make when there's a full house? So that's the concern, because a lot of the Northeast markets, the California, state of California, I don't know if they're going to allow 100% capacity with the vaccine that starts to the public in May or June, and we're not going to know its true effects for years, let alone 6 months of the last half of 2020. We may learn a little more. So this is what this comes down to. And the other thing that Live Nation wants to do is they want to have screening processes, which I think is more talk than actual, what's going to happen. They want to have timed entry. If you ever been to a concert, half the people don't show up until either 5 minutes before on stage or as the artist is coming on stage. You're telling me you're going to get 10,000 people or 5,000 people after a vaccine. That's not 20 or 30, but 5 to 10,000 people. You're going to time entry. It's going to be timed entry. I doubt that's even feasible. You can get some people to come in at the right times, but you're not going to get, people are still going to be late. You're going to tell them, no, they just spent all this money, probably double the price for a ticket because you have restrictions, and you have timed entry, not going to work. I just went to a show here in Connecticut a couple months ago, and there was 500 maximum people. And FYI, I went by myself because my bubble, no one in my bubble, my small bubble of my family wanted to go, as far as my parents and my brother. So I said, you know what? I don't want to go with I don't want anyone else to drive in my car or go in my bubble because I don't want to risk this thing being spread if I'm asymptomatic. So long story short, there was just under 500 people at this show. There was no timed entry and people still came late. It's hard to get 500 people to come on time for a very intimate event, let alone having timed entry. You got to get here by this time, and then you're going to have 10,000 people. Not happening. Same thing with the screening process. How are you going to screen 3,000 people, let alone 10, 15,000 people? To say, okay, we know every person here is the rightful person that bought this ticket and they have a COVID vaccination that's good. Even if people have a red pen mark on their hand or a bracelet, that process is going to take hours to get everyone bracelet up and confirm your ID. Let's show your ID. It's going to take hours to get people into that venue. And then you have time exit or social distance exits. That's going to take a while too if you have 5 to 10,000 people. And the ugly truth is, again, a social distance concert, when you have a band like Pearl Jam, when you have an act like Luke Bryan, they're not going to make money if the 50,000 seat football stadium only has 5,000 people. Unless those 5,000 people pay a lot of money. The asking price for these artists that are big name, you're going to have at least 50% capacity. And even so, they're still going to be losing margins because they're used to 50,000 people. That's how they make bank. They have a big tour they want to pay their whole crew the right wages. They need a sold out house because a Luke Bryan, a Jason Aldean, a Pearl Jam, a Billy Joel, they pretty much guarantee sellouts. The promoters live off the idea that a Billy Joel show is probably going to sell out when they go to Philadelphia for a ballpark show, when they go to LA for a ballpark show. So under that assumption, you have to have this idea that you're going to have a lot of people there. And if not, how do you make that money back? Let me know what you guys think. Definitely like, comment, subscribe. I just think that the larger acts, the majority of people are waiting for, it's going to be extremely difficult to get it back to normal and to get these profit margins right. And that is what is key, is that people need to make money or even just break even despite this pandemic. That's what it's a business. And having 25% or 50% capacity with the vaccine is not going to be something feasible for these larger acts with larger bills and larger crews, and they ask more money. Each individual person takes in a larger sum of money per show. It's your boy ConcertViz34. Peace.